Hi, everyone. Welcome to the College to Calling Summit. My name is Miko Lau, and the purpose that I created this summit is because when I first came out of UC Berkeley back in 2017, I wish I had something like this where I'm able to tap into the minds of amazing, successful individuals out there who have created a life that they love, doing the work that they're passionate about. And this is what this summit is all about. I've gathered together over 20 plus amazing individuals to share with us about their journey, about the experiences of how they have the success in their life today. And on this episode, we have a super amazing guest on here with us, and I'm so excited to interview Trina L. Martin. Trina is an author, speaker, and coach who has a gift and passion for inspiring emerging leaders out there to pursue their wildest dreams with heart and grit. And Trina has been a dedicated and accomplished member of the US military for almost 30 years. She has broken so many barriers and made so many achievements that other people have said that it was impossible. And I'm really excited to talk to Trina about the journey that she's been through to get to where she's at today, and really share us about her story. So Trina, thank you so much for being on here with us today. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, Miko. Thank you for having me.
Awesome, awesome. So let's jump straight into this interview. Why don't you take us back in time and tell us a little bit about who Trina was back in her early 20s?
Ooh, so it's a long story. It's been a long journey, but back in my 20s, I was the first person in my family to go to college, and I financed my own way through, and I joined the military as a result of that to help pay for my education. So in my 20s, I was kind of a trailblazer, being the first one in my family to go to college, but I also was I didn't have any examples, so I did it all by myself. So I was very driven. I was relentless, still am relentless, just to succeed and make it. I was very ambitious, driven. And this is why what you're doing is so dear to my heart. And I'm so passionate about it because I didn't have the you or the me to talk to when I was going through that. So I'm very passionate about speaking to your audience and helping them. But I was working. I had it kind of rough because I didn't have that financial support from family. So I had to work sometimes two jobs. Plus I was in the reserves and the military completing my degree. But I felt that the world was mine to be had. So I was very intent on succeeding and doing whatever it took to succeed. And I just persevered. It was hard, but I persevered. So it's a story of endurance, I guess you can say.
That's powerful. Where does that came from, the motivation to keep going despite the challenges? Where do you think that came from, became a part of you?
Well, I grew up with a verbally abusive mother, and as a child, I knew something wasn't right, and I wanted to get away from that. So I knew the way to do it was to succeed. And from being a very little girl, I knew I wanted to go to college and have a career and make a life of my own to get away from my mother and just to do things in the world that I never saw modeled for me. So that was my goal. And that childhood and that traumatic upbringing kind of fueled me. It fueled my strength and my drive. So I'm thankful for that because even though it was rough at the time, it was something that I needed to get me to where I am today.
Yeah, I want to touch on this later on in the interview, and I'll talk to our audience about the book that you're launching soon. But I want to shift our focus more so back about your college experience. So after you came out of college, did you know exactly what you wanted to do in your career, in your life? Did you have any idea?
Um, yes and no. So I went to school and I got my degree in computer science, and I knew I wanted to do something in the computer science field. I didn't know exactly what. And I had applied for many jobs after graduation. Actually, it took me a year after graduating before I got a real corporate job. So I knew my dream was, my 20-year-old dream was, oh, I'm going to work for IBM, because this was 1993, 94 when I graduated from college. I'm going to work for IBM and just be in the IT field and do great. And it didn't work out that way, but I did have some great positions along the way. And, I just saw myself working in my field, being successful. Exactly what, I didn't know, but I just knew that I wanted to be successful. And every step of the way, I always challenged myself. So I'm not a complacent person at all. So I achieve something and then I'm ready to go on to the next thing. And I am a lifelong learner. So I'm never satisfied with just being in one place. I'm always trying to improve myself. So that's what I've done all my life. And that has taken me from point A to point B. And it's something that I encourage, especially my clients, and that I would encourage to your listeners, that you never stop learning. No matter whether you're finishing college and you have this degree or you have multiple degrees, you're still going to be learning, because that's what life is. Life is a school, and you're going to have to advance in career or in life. Wherever life takes you, you're always learning something. So please don't be afraid to continue that learning, and always, 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 always be a student, because there's someone that you can learn something from.
Yes, absolutely. So I love how you mentioned that you were really driven by the desire to be successful back then. For you, it was working at IBM. And I feel like even to this day, I just came out of college 2 years ago. I even have this mentality that in order for me to be successful, I need to work at a big corporation, work in the tech field, IT, computer science. But it wasn't something that my heart resonate with. Right. So, what is your definition of success now, knowing what you know? Is it really being true to who we are? What's your definition of success?
That's a good question. And I want everyone to take heed to this. But my definition of success, and everyone is different, but being where I am today, and I'm 48 years old, and I know that seems old, but my definition of success today is having peace and having freedom. Because, like probably many of college graduates today, when I was in my 20s, I thought, working for the IBM, making the, 5, 6 figures, that was success. But now that I'm where I am, and like you, that wasn't my passion. That wasn't what I knew I was created to do. That was something that I did because that was my vocation, and I knew that that was something I had to do to make it in life. But really, when you have to be true to yourself, and you have to look within you and dig deep and decide, who are you at your core? What's going to make you happy? And ultimately, I found out that working for the proverbial IBMs was not what made me happy. And now, knowing what I know, I just want peace in my life. I want to have freedom, the freedom to do the things that I love, the things that I have my passion for serving others, and for spending time with my children. That's success to me.
Oh, I love this so much. Yeah, and the reason why I'm really passionate about this summit and really wanting to reach out to this group of people specifically is because I talk to so many people in their 30s, 40s. That's when they really realize, oh, I just spent the past decades of my life doing something that didn't feel right with me. So instead of taking such a long detour, why not figure out what it is that's true to you right now, so you can start building that life that truly resonate with you. But so the question I have for you, Trina, so many of our listeners might be thinking, okay, I understand what you're talking about. I know that ultimately happiness comes from doing things that we love, but how do we balance between doing that, pursuing that, but at the same time be able to build a life where it's financially sustainable? Because this is a question that I personally had coming out of college. I thought that I couldn't do what I love and at the same time make good money doing so. So how do we find that middle ground?
Well, and for me, and times are different from the time that I graduate from college and then the time that, today and when you graduated a couple years ago, because you guys have
Mm-hmm.
social media, you have so many things at your fingertip. But what I want to say, if you have to start out and get a corporate job,
Mm-hmm.
that's okay, but don't throw away your dreams because we do need something to get us on that path. And even though that may not be the thing that you're passionate about, that may be the thing that leads you to your passion. So I want people to understand that you have to start somewhere, and sometimes you have to get that experience
Mm-hmm.
and maybe network or whatever, but you have to start somewhere. But just don't lose your focus, and you want to do things that are going to align with your passion if possible. And that's something that I'm learning now that I'm
Mm-hmm.
on the path where I am doing what I love to do. It's something that you have to know that in your mind you have to have your goals set, and you have to know that, okay, this is my goal and I'm going to do what I need to do in line with that. So I always tell my clients to live on intention.
Mm-hmm.
So living on intention basically means that you're being strategic about your decisions and about your life. So you're not just letting life happen to you, right? You're planning, you're focusing, you're saying, okay, I may get this job, since we've been talking about IBM. I may get this job at IBM and I'm going to learn whatever, the business side or the marketing side or the IT side. But yet when I finish working my 9 to 5, I'm going to go and study the marketing that I need to start my business, or I'm going to learn how to build my platform.
Mm-hmm.
So you do, and you balance that, and you do everything in steps because it's going to take some time for you to build that platform that you want, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's being on social media, being an influencer, or whatever it is you have. But I think just having that background and that foundation will help you get along. But just keep your goals in line of what you want, and just remember what you're working towards.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Just having that intention and that ultimate goal that we want for ourselves. So, um, what was the turning point for you, Trina, when you really know with clarity of who you are and what you were born here to do? What was that turning point for you? Can you think of a defining moment when you just had an aha moment and say, okay, this is what I really came here to do?
Um, it's funny you say that because I've always known along the way that I was meant to do something more and something different.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of knew in my head, I had an idea, but I really wasn't sure. So at my heart, I love to speak.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, probably 4 or 5 years ago, I volunteered and I went to speak to a school of middle school girls.
Mm-hmm.
And these were the problem girls that the principal told me. They were the ones that had problems, and she wanted me to speak on self-esteem and things like that for the girls. And I did. And it's funny because I go into this classroom with these girls and they're all um, have attitudes, and they're sitting there like, who is she and why is she coming here talking to us? But at the end of the talk, they all were changed. They all were different. They were coming to me saying, "Oh my God, I didn't know I could do this. Are you?
Mm-hmm.
Can I do that? Can I be like you?" And I was like, "Yes." And I left there feeling overjoyed because I knew, I said, "That's what I'm meant to do. I
Mm-hmm.
want to impact and inspire people like that." And that was my change, my turning point.
Mm-hmm.
And after all the years of saying I was meant to do more than what I was doing, I realized that that was my thing that I was created to do. So you'll know what you're meant to do when you have that feeling, and you know that you would do it whether you were getting paid for it or not. I went to speak to these girls and I wasn't getting paid. I was volunteering to do it. But it gave me so much fulfillment, and it made me so happy to see their faces and see that they realized that there was more for them in life than what they had been shown.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times people don't know what's possible because they're going off of their environment and their circumstances. So if they don't have anyone there to model for them and be an example, they don't think it's possible. So
Yeah.
when you have that feeling within inside yourself of this is it, this brings me joy, and this is what I would do, regardless of whether I was getting paid for it, regardless of the time or whatever, that's what you were meant to do.
Yes. So when you had that awakening moment, were you still working at a corporate job or were you still with the military? Where were you at that point in your life?
I was still working corporate job and still
Mm-hmm.
in the military, and actually I'm still in the military reserves
Mm-hmm.
wise.
Mm-hmm.
But then when I knew that, I just started shifting my focus. I
Mm-hmm.
knew, I said, yeah, this is what I, and it's funny because probably 20 years prior to that, I had said, you know what, I want to be a speaker. I want to share my story with other people to inspire them. But at that time, speaking wasn't a job. You know, it's not like
Mm-hmm.
now we have the Tony Robbins and the Lisa Nichols of the world, and we see them. And when I thought about it, I didn't know how to do that because we didn't have that. We didn't see those people. But
Mm-hmm.
now you see it, and people are doing that, and people are, telling their stories, whether it's on social media or live events. So it's a lot easier now. I think technology has really brought advances to us in ways that we didn't even imagine.
Oh my goodness, it's so easy. We can just go on Facebook,
Yes.
Instagram, go on live, and you can just share
Yes.
your story. It's super easy. So, can you walk us through like the exact steps that you personally taken when you realize, okay, this is what I want to do? The daily action steps that you taken to pursue that path because it was very intangible. It's just
Mm-hmm.
abstract dream that you have. How do you made it into something super physical in reality, starting to manifest that path for you?
Well, the first thing that I did is, and I teach this, you have to change your mindset.
Mm,
You have to get rid of whatever's holding you back and whatever those limiting beliefs are. Because again, you have to remember, I had a traumatic childhood with a verbal mother, or
mhm,
verbally abusive mother, and that was all I saw in my life. And I didn't have anyone encouraging me. So you have to shift. You have to change your mindset and know that things are possible. So my
mhm,
my steps when I changed was I had to do that. I had to change my mindset, and I said, okay, there's more for me than working a corporate 9 to 5 job. This is my passion. This is really what brings me joy. This is what I want to do. So from there, I went on to, again, like I said, I'm a lifelong learner. I started studying, like Lisa Nichols is my speaking coach, getting into her programs and courses and going out and speaking and doing things. So you're learning. And then every day I just, and I'm not trying to impose my beliefs or anything on anyone, but I believe in God. So I
mhm,
pray every day. I have my affirmations that I tell myself and to encourage myself. So sometimes you have to do that. You have to be your own encouragement because sometimes there's not going to always be someone there. And 9 times out of 10, a lot of times your friends or your family may not understand what you're striving for. And it's
mhm.
not for them to understand because that's your journey, not theirs. And that's what you have to always remember.
Okay, yeah, I want to dive into about your childhood, and I know you have a book coming out soon in January. From a mess to amazing, 7 steps to create a life you deserve. I know inside the book you're going to dive into talking about how to overcome the challenges from the past and really just let go of those limiting beliefs and things that we think about ourselves to become the person that we're meant to be. So, how did you, if you don't mind, if you want to share with us more about the difficult times that in your past that really shape who you are, and when you start to see how those things still start to show up in your current life that were holding you back? Because I see that in myself too. So I want to
Mm-hmm.
know how you overcome those.
Again, it's the mindset. I realized when I got to the point of shifting, I
Mm,
realized that a lot of my characteristics were things that I didn't even want. So I had a lot of things that I learned from my mother that I noticed and I said, oh my goodness, this is what I'm doing and this is how I'm behaving, and I don't like that. So you
Mhm.
have to get real with yourself. You have to get honest and say, and take a look at yourself. Now, if you have some friends around you that may have been saying, you do this or you do that, you may want to evaluate and really see if what they're saying is true. Because a lot of times we have friends and family that tell us things, and because we don't believe it, we just think, oh, they're just saying that. But sometimes they are telling us the truth. So you
Mhm.
have to step back. But that was a pivotal moment for me to realize that like I was going through life and I was so angry and bitter. And I was like,
Mhm.
where is this anger and bitterness coming from? Because I'm not that type of person. And I realized that it was my childhood and my life growing up with my mother that had kind of deep rooted in me. So I
Mhm.
basically had to reverse engineer myself and say, okay, I don't want to be like that. I want to do things differently. So when I saw that I was on a path to this way, I
Mhm.
turned and did the opposite.
Mhm.
Um, so you have to the main thing is you have to get honest with yourself, because unless you can't change your mindset until you get real with you and who you are, because that's the only way you're going to change. That's the only way you're going to be the person that you want to be and that you were created to be. And then
Mhm.
one of the things that I realized that I was doing that I know a lot of people do is I was a people pleaser. I ended
Mm.
up in relationships, and even with my mother, I wanted people to validate me and appreciate me. So I was giving myself to people who didn't deserve me,
Mhm.
who weren't worthy of that. And that's one of the things. You have to know your worth. You have to know your worth and not to compromise yourself.
Yeah.
So these are all the things that make you who you are, and make your life fulfilling and successful for you, whatever however you define this success for
Mhm.
yourself.
Mhm.
That's where it starts.
And that leads me to my next question, which I believe I know you're a firm believer in self-love as the foundation to everything that we do. And that's something that I recently came upon in my journey as well, to realize how much I didn't truly love myself. Like I
Mm-hmm.
didn't think that was good enough because of my growing up. There's always people around you saying
Yes.
like, you need to do this, you need to do that. So how do we cultivate more self-love for ourselves and really recognize how lack of self-love has been holding us back from everything, every aspects of our life?
I think one of the main things that I did and that I know a lot of people do is you got to realize that your past doesn't dictate your future. And I think so many of us, we've made mistakes. Everyone has, but I think a lot of us make mistakes and we beat ourselves up for them. So we're like, oh my God, I'm so stupid. Why did I do that? I can't believe I did it. And that's abuse against yourself. You have to know how to forgive yourself. And it took me a long time to understand and realize that I'm human. I've made mistakes, I've made poor choices, but that's not who I am. And that doesn't dictate where I'm going in life. So don't beat yourself up for any mistakes that you made, because we're all human. Everyone makes mistakes. If people tell you, oh, why did you make that mistake? I can't believe you did it. Don't listen to them. Don't listen to them. And you're going to make more mistakes as life goes on. But I look at it as this. And one of my favorite quotes is by Nelson Mandela. And he says, I never lose. I either win or learn. And that's the thing. You have to learn from those mistakes. And you're going to make more mistakes. Just don't keep making the same mistakes, and
Mhm.
forgive yourself and move on. A lot of times we beat ourselves up more than what anyone else would ever do. We call ourselves stupid. We go, oh, I'm not worthy of love, because I did the same thing. I was thinking, oh, I don't think anybody would ever love me, and I've made this mistake, and I'm not this person, or I'm not that person. Don't compare yourself to anyone. That's the worst thing that I think everyone does. We compare ourselves to other people, and we're not meant to be. anybody but us,
Mhm.
and that's where the self-love comes in. And I had to learn it the hard way. So if I can help anybody that's listening today, don't compare yourself to anyone and cut yourself a break. Forgive yourself and don't worry about those mistakes.
Yeah, I definitely resonate with that. Especially, I feel like with a lot of high achievers out there,
Yes.
it's like a way of compensating that feeling of not good enough by constantly seeking external success, external achievement. But at the end of the day, that void cannot be filled with anything else but self-love. So I want to know more about your experience being in the US military. 30 years, that's a long time. What would you say like were some of the biggest lessons that you came to learn with your experiences in the US military?
Um, the military, of course, I've been in the military almost half my life, but the military basically it shaped me to who I am today. I joined the military as a 19-year-old,
Mhm.
and I did 14 years enlisted before I got my commission and become an officer. So I've been an officer now for 15, almost 16 years, and it's one of the things that I think the military teaches that I think is absolutely wonderful is one is discipline.
Mhm.
You learn discipline, you learn teamwork because of course nothing gets done with just you. It's you have a team, you have people that you have to have on your right and your left. So you have to learn how to be able to work with all people. And I think that's one of the greatest lessons I've taken away is I'm very disciplined, but the fact that I have met people from all walks of life, from around the world, and you have to know how to interact with people. You have to
Mhm.
learn how to talk to people. You have to know how to listen. And that's been one of my biggest, benefits to being in the military is that I have become a good connector with people.
Yeah, and that's a really powerful skills that I feel like a lot of us don't necessarily learn in college. I have so
Hmm.
many friends that I talk to. They would say the number one thing that they wish they have learned in school and college would just be networking, people
Yes.
relationship skills. So how would you suggest that people fresh out of college looking to learn, get better in that area? What can we do to strengthen that?
Put down the phone, get from behind the computer.
Mm.
And it's funny because I was on an interview some months ago and someone asked me a similar question about how to communicate and network. And I said, I think social media and the computer is a great like you and I were in totally different places and we're communicating and looking at each other. It's
Mhm.
great, but you can't do this all the time. You have
Mhm.
to get out. And
Mhm.
that's what I would recommend. Get out, socialize, go to places. And I'm not saying party places, like wherever you go, like I can go to Starbucks. And if I'm there and I see someone else there, and just strike up a conversation. Hi, how's your day? Or, is
Mhm.
that great what you're drinking? And just learn how to talk to people. That's that's how you're gonna get out. That's how you're gonna get better at communicating with other people and
Mhm.
networking. And once you talk to people, you never know what you may find out and who you're talking to. I
Yes.
travel a lot. And in the course of all my travel, I always find someone to talk to. Either they
Mhm.
they talk to me or I talk to them. And then once you strike up a conversation, you may say, I my passion is XYZ. That person may be able to help you and
Mm.
maybe a connection. Um, so you always have to get out and talk. You can't have that phone all the time. And I know we all want that instant gratification and we want to check those emails, but you got to put that phone down. Put the phone down and just get out and get some human interaction.
Yeah, and I think we need it more now more than ever. I go around, go outside, and I would see everyone just on their phone. And the
Yes.
moment someone looks up and you can actually have a conversation, you can really see the life, like they're alive, like you can see their
Hmm.
spirits. So from everything that we touch on so far, it sounds like to me a key component to like first getting to know ourselves, being aware, all these things, it requires a lot of conscious conscious living, self-awareness, really paying attention to what we're thinking about. So how exactly can we cultivate more of that self-awareness? Is there like a practice that you personally do, meditation,
Um,
anything?
I meditate. Well, I try to. My brain is
Mm-hmm.
always going on overdrive, so I'm not so good at meditation. But I do spend time alone, in the
Mm,
quiet, and I think that is what you need to really start digging within yourself, because you
mm-hmm.
can't. You're gonna have to turn off the 24-hour news cycles. I think that is so detrimental to us nowadays. You know, the CNN is replaying the negative news every day. Put down the phone. Um, I have to share this experience with you. So
Mm-hmm.
a couple years ago, my children, they went to visit their father for the weekend, and I was just going through a lot, and I decided, I said, you know what? I'm going to take this weekend to be by myself.
Mm-hmm.
I turned off the phone. I didn't turn on the TV. I didn't turn on the computer. And the whole weekend, it was just me and quiet. And it was the best weekend. Do that. And
Mm,
really, really, it's just be with yourself, and then you'll learn, because I think everyone is on a a routine. It's almost like we're on overdrive, cruise
mm-hmm.
control. We do the same thing over and over again. We wash, rinse, and repeat every day. But if you take that time to stop, be still, just be with yourself, start thinking. I sit and I read the Bible, or just start thinking yourself, and then you can start thinking clearly. You can start saying, you know what, I don't like being here.
Mm-hmm.
I'd rather be here. How can I advance my life? Or this is something I want to do better in my life. Then you start getting clarity on the things that you want to do. But I think being still and being quiet is going to be the first step that you need to go through into really connecting with yourself.
Yes. Just by listening to you say that story, I kind of got chills by I can imagine how powerful that experience was for you because this is the way I look at it. I think my inner being is like my best friend, and she
Mm-hmm.
constantly wants to tell me something, the inspirations and everything, but we're constantly so busy with external inputs that we just don't have opportunity to listen to that
Mm-hmm.
voice. So just being still is powerful. So Trina, I know you work with so many amazing individuals wanting to pursue their dreams out there. What would you say are like the number one things that really stop people from moving forward? What's like the number one fear or challenge that people go through?
Their limiting beliefs and their fear of
Mm-hmm.
failure. I think no one wants to fail. No one gets up and say, "Oh, you know what? Today I am going to fail." No one does that. So I think that's what holds most people back, is the fear of failing. But do it anyway, because you know
Mm-hmm.
what? You don't know whether you may fail or you may succeed. And even if you fail, there's something to be learned from that failure. So that failure may get you a step closer to where you want to be, because you know, okay, I did this and that didn't work. So I'm going to do this next time. So being afraid, you're not going to get anywhere. And I'm not saying take unintentional or destructive risks. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying, you have to get past the fear. We're all afraid, but you have to get past it, and do whatever that thing is that you want to do, because if you don't, you'll never know.
Mm-hmm.
You'll never know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think we have a huge blessing to be able to like listening to stories from people such as yourself and all the other amazing experts on this show is to see like how much of an impact that you can have just by following your calling, following your passion, because it's not just about Trina, right? It's about all the lives that you are able to touch because
Yes.
you are willing to step into the person that you were meant to be. So this is like one thing that I'm so passionate and excited about when working with this young group of people, because imagine it's like a ripple effect. If I can impact one person, that person can impact more people. So it just goes on and on. So I want to talk about really for my audience listening right now, they listen to this interview and they be like so excited they want to go out there and do this, but they might have people around them in their life, parents maybe. So many of us still live with
Mm-hmm.
our parents because living expense is just outrageous. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
how do we how do we fearlessly go out there and pursue what we love, but at the same time there are people in our lives that just tell us like, what are you doing, don't do that. So how do we overcome those naysayers?
Um, it's gonna take some strength because I
Mm-hmm.
know when you have people around you who are saying you can't do that or um, are you crazy? You know, get a real job, things like that. You have to um, have in your mind that you're going to persevere
Mm-hmm.
regardless. And again, like I said, your journey is your journey, not anyone else's. And don't expect other people to understand because they won't. Because they're not going to understand that, oh, you know, Miko is doing this thing here, and I don't understand why she's not doing that. Why isn't she a doctor or a lawyer? You know, so that's not where your passion is. This is your passion, what you're doing right here. And
Mm-hmm.
you have to just block out the voices from the outside. And again, tune into you and know what makes you happy, how you're being true to yourself, and just stay focused.
Mm-hmm.
Just stay
Mm-hmm.
focused.
Yeah, and just stay in your lane and focus on what you're doing.
Yes.
Trina, were there ever a time when you feel like this is not going to work? You just like, this is too difficult. Were you ever thinking like, okay, maybe I'll go back to working at a corporate 9 to 5? Did you ever gone through moments like that?
Always. And you know what? And that's always going to happen, you know,
Mm-hmm.
because you're thinking, okay, this is a safety net. This
Mm-hmm.
is comfortable. But it's what makes you uncomfortable that is where your greatest reward is. You know, if it's comfortable, you're not growing. You think about something that you're really good at and that you can do effortlessly. Are you really challenging yourself? No, because you know how to do that thing. You probably can do it with your eyes closed. But it's the
Mm-hmm.
thing that makes you uncomfortable, the thing that you say, "Oh, this is something new. I need to learn this," or "How do I go about it?" That's where you grow. That's where you gain your strength. So, yeah, there's going to be doubt all the time, but you got to be willing to do it anyway. You got to be willing to do it afraid. Do it
Mm-hmm.
with yourself feeling uncomfortable. Just do it.
Yeah, and I think that's when like I feel the most happiness and joy when you know that you can overcome something difficult. So can you imagine where life would be for you right now if you were to not pursue that voice telling you I want to be a speaker? Where would you be today?
Oh man, it would be just a regular grind. I would not be
Mm-hmm.
happy. And I always promised myself that I would not live a life that one day I would sit back and say, you know what, I wish I should have done this. I wish I could have done this. You know,
Mm-hmm.
had I done this, I don't want to have any of those regrets.
Yeah.
I want to do the things that I want to do. I want to pursue my passions, follow my dreams. I want to one day sit in a rocking chair and tell my grandchildren, this is what I did.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to be happy and I want to feel that. I don't want to feel that there's something missing in my life.
Mm-hmm.
So if you look at things that way and you tell yourself, you know what, I don't want to disappoint myself,
Mm-hmm.
I think that will get you the motivation you need to keep striving for what it is you want to do because you're not here to please anyone else. But if you say, you know what, I don't want to disappoint me,
Mm-hmm.
I want to continue to do the things that I need to do to get where I want to go. And I think that will motivate you because you don't want to disappoint yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the power of like not having any regrets. I recently heard this on a podcast. They said that like so many of us are living life as though we have forever to go. Like we never run out of time. But
Right.
that's not the reality. And when we live with intention, knowing that our time is limited, we really just don't have time to waste doing something that we don't
Mm-hmm.
love. So what is your like what drives you nowadays? What do you plan to create for like, in the future? What do you do on a day-to-day basis now? What drives you? to get up every morning?
What drives me is you and people like
Oh.
you that I can talk to and that I can
Mhm.
inspire, that I can share my wisdom with.
Mhm.
That's what drives me. That's what fills my heart. Is just being in service to other people.
Mhm.
That's what it's all about. It's not, because at the end of the day, it's not how much money you make. It's not how many degrees you have on your wall. It's about really what did you do with your life, and that's what I want people to say that I'm known for. I want them to say, she connected with people, she followed her dreams, she had integrity, and go back. And it's funny because I'm going to tell you this story too. So when I was graduating from undergrad from college, I had a professor who, before graduation, he set the whole class down. He said, I want to tell you guys something, and I hope this helps you. He said, all of you guys are going to
Mhm.
be graduating with computer science degrees, and you're going to be making a lot of money.
Mhm.
He said, please don't get caught up in the money. And he told us a story about how he had a good friend who was a VP at IBM, and he made just crazy money, had the big houses, the cars, this, that, and the other, but his children didn't know who he was.
Mhm.
So he worked so much trying to make the money and live in the big house and drive the fancy cars that when he got home, his kid didn't know him and didn't want to, be there to bond with him and talk to him. So that has always stuck in the back of my mind. Is that what I want to do? And at the end of the day, if you think about it, most corporate jobs, and I'm not trying to dissuade anyone from getting a corporate job if that's what they want to do,
Mhm.
but if you really feel in your heart that there's a passion for you to do something else and something on your own, then do it. Because at the end of the day, the corporations of the world, they're going to go on without you.
Yeah.
They're going to go on without you. You have to decide whether your life is going to be fulfilling to you after giving them the time and the years of your life.
Mm. Wow, that was powerful. And I feel like Trina, everything that we talked about here in this interview probably opened up the eyes of so many of our listeners right now, because growing up we've been told this one storyline: go to school, get good
Mm-hmm.
grades, go to college, get a job. And to realize there's a different way, and success might not necessarily be measured by a good job, good money,
Mm-hmm.
that could take some time to process. So
Yes.
I encourage our listeners to like take some time to process and come back and listen to this again, because this has been super powerful. So to wrap up this interview, Trina, I have a couple last questions I would love to ask you. So I know you said you have children.
Yes.
Knowing what you know now, like how do you like intentionally, consciously, like when you parent, are there things that you do differently now, knowing like all the things that you came to learn for yourself in your lifetime?
Yes, I do. I am
Mm-hmm.
very encouraging to my children. So I have a 14-year-old and a 12-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm very encouraging my 14-year-old, who's my daughter. She's very artistic. She draws, just she's great. And she does
Mm-hmm.
photography. And I foster that. So I
Mm-hmm.
ask her, what do you want to do? What do you want to be? And it's funny because I'm taking them on a European vacation in the summer
Wow.
so that I can take her to Italy so she can see some of the famous artwork, and maybe hopefully I'm trying to get her to like want to go to college, in
Mm-hmm.
Italy somewhere. But I try to foster that whatever they are, and I tell them and I affirm them. Tell them,
Mm-hmm.
you are smart. You can do whatever it is you want to do. If this is your passion and this is your talent, do that. I'm not pressuring them to be what I want them to be.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I want them to follow their dreams, because just like I had, that, okay, well, you got to work, you got to, get this job, make this money, and work at this company for 50 years. Well, no one does that anymore,
Mm-hmm.
and that's not my passion. So I try to tell my children, whatever your passion is, as long as you strive and you
Mm-hmm.
work hard and you're not hurting anyone else, I will support you.
Mm. Wow, I love how you cultivate such a space that she can really embrace who she is and really unleash those gifts from inside. I feel like that should be the way
Yes.
schools should do, instead of really pouring everything into our minds and really diminishing who we are. So it sounds like we are headed that direction, which I'm really excited about.
Yes.
So Trina, last question. If you could go back in time and talk to your 20-year-old version of yourself, knowing everything that you know now,
Mhm.
what would you say to her?
I would tell myself to forgive myself, to not beat up on myself for mistakes that I've made,
Mhm.
and to know that it's okay. That's it. Just, not to beat up on myself, because like I said before, we're very hard on ourselves. And
Mhm.
me being an overachiever, I was very hard on myself with some of the things that I did wrong.
Mhm.
But I would tell myself that it's okay. Forgive yourself and
Mhm.
keep moving.
I just want to acknowledge you, Trina, so much. I can feel your intention and your passion to really, you have this heart to want to serve and impact people. And it shows through the message that you share with us today on this interview. And I have no doubt that you'll continue on to impact so many people's lives. And I thank you so much for being on here today to talk to our listeners. And I know you have prepared something super special for our listeners today. I know they would love to continue to learn from you, connect with you. So, how can they find you online? And can you tell us a little bit more about the gift that you have prepared for our audience?
Absolutely. Well, first of all, I have a podcast. It's called Trina
Mm-hmm.
Talk, and it's more of this, and I interview people from all around the world doing amazing things.
Mm-hmm.
My website is trinalmartin.com, but I have a special guest for a gift for your listeners.
Mm-hmm.
My book, From a Mess to Amazing, it is due to launch January 7th. But what I'm going to do for your listeners is I'm giving an autographed copy of the book to 5 listeners. And Miko, you're going to pick the 5. You're going to pick the 5 and just let me know who they are. And I will mail them a book, autographed copy. And you're probably going to get it before the launch date. So you'll be the first
Mm-hmm.
5 people to actually have the book.
Oh, that's so exciting. And I will pick the first 5 individuals who will reply back to the email that this interview is going to be sent out to, just letting me know what's your biggest takeaway from this interview. The first 5 people who email me back, I'll let you have the amazing gift of Trina's new book coming out. Do not miss out on that. I definitely will get my hands on her book as well.
And
So
you don't have to be one of the 5. I'll send you one.
oh, thank you so much. Thank you, Trina. It has been such an amazing time here with you. And thank you, all my listeners, for tuning in and listen to this interviews. I'll see you next time and I'll talk to you guys soon. Okay,
Thank you.
bye.